So, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, wherever you're based today. As once again, we have a truly international audience for today's Bright Talk webinar on creating an artificial intelligence, which we know as AI, enabled Internet of Things, which we also know as IoT Hub. This has been brought to you again by AIM. My name's Steve Ackland, and I'm CEO of AIM. Thank you very much for attending. So for the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to explain the concept of Internet of Things, IoT, why organizations are moving to monitoring hubs to reduce digital complexity and allowing them to cope with a multitude of systems that they rely upon, and how by doing this, obviously enabling understanding of crossover implications across systems and information estate for problems and changes which they need to deal with. The hub approach offers an organization a complete picture of the health of its systems portfolio in a human readable and accessible form. Now, given the huge volumes of data that are being created through operations of all systems, which we're fully aware of, and that's growing exponentially each year, technology and artificial intelligence in particular has a major role to play in helping to streamline this complexity, differentiating true issues from false positives and making the information presented in a visual, human readable form for control and decision taking. Technology can increasingly be used to apply automated corrective and preventive action too, should certain conditions or system failures or required changes be met. AIM's dataServe software platform has been designed to support this through innovative AI-led technology, and you'll hear more about that very shortly. And of course, although we will be talking about dataServe and how that operates, please treat this as a checklist of criteria that any organization should be looking for when it comes to making a tool selection. So today I'm joined by my AIM colleague, Alex Rattray. Alex is one of AIM's dataServe product team and will be delivering the webinar. Alex is in fact a mathematician and programmer who works in AIM, playing a very prominent role in our software product design and development team operating on dataServe. Now, if you do have any questions, please feel free to raise them as we actually go through. I will be checking through the session, and if you do wish to raise a question, please do so using the Bright Talk questions section, and we'll attempt to raise and answer as many questions as we can at the end. And then finally, just to say that as a subscriber to Bright Talk, you'll receive a link to the recording after the webinar. And do make sure to look out for future AIM webinars on a range of interesting and contemporary leading issues in the use of new technologies and how we're addressing them. So without further ado, I will now invite Alex to step forward to proceed with the webinar. And we'll be back a little bit later with some questions at the end. So Alex, over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Steve. And thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. I just wanted to get a bit into the background of the sort of two main topics that are IoT and AI before getting into the specifics of how you can put those two together. And sort of just kicking off, we, over the past world, have witnessed the spread of connected devices and how that's transformed everyday objects into intelligent data gathering nodes within vast networks. Interestingly, of all of the predictive trends of the past 20 years, IoT has arguably been the most accurate in the predictions of how far it could reach. It's everywhere now. Smart homes equipped with thermostats that adjust based on our preferences, industrial sensors optimizing manufacturing processes in real time, fleets of vehicles all tracked from one location, and healthcare now is massively reliant on connected devices. This interconnected web has revolutionized how we interact with our environments, and with that brought a new era of efficiency, convenience, and innovation. But with this rapid growth comes a new set of challenges. As the number of IoT devices continues to soar, organizations are grappling with the complexities of managing and securing these interconnected systems. This is where the integration of artificial intelligence, or AI, emerges as a real catalyst for advancement. Bringing AI capabilities into device management hubs, we can take the benefits of IoT to the next level. IoT-powered analytics help us to parse out actionable insights from the deluge of data generated by devices, empowering organizations to make data-driven decisions and optimize performance like never before. Today, we'll explore the harmonies between IoT and AI, discussing how this marriage of yesteryear's main trend with the hot topic of today is reshaping industries and unlocking new possibilities. We'll delve into strategies for effective IoT management, highlighting best practices and real-world examples to inspire and inform your own initiatives. So, before we push forwards, let's just take a moment to briefly define some of the terms. In the tech world, we do love our acronyms, but it's crucial to break down these barriers. Let's start with IoT, the Internet of Things. This term refers to a network of physical devices, such as sensors or appliances, that are connected to the Internet. These devices collect and exchange data, enabling them to communicate and perform tasks without the need for human intervention. Now, this concept's actually been around for a surprising amount of time, going back to 1982 with a vending machine that was connected to the ARPANET to track the temperature of newly installed drinks. But it wasn't really until the late 2000s that the IoT could have been considered born, with more devices connected to the internet than people, as it were, on phones or computers. Moving on to our next definition is AI, which I suspect needs less introduction, given the enormous excitement around this technology in the last 12 to 18 months. AI, as I'm sure you know, stands for artificial intelligence, which involves creating systems that can mimic human behavior and decision-making processes. Through techniques like machine learning and deep learning, AI systems can learn from data, recognize patterns, and make predictions and/or decisions. AI is the current frontier. Many are inspired by the possibilities it unlocks, but the prospect of integrating AI with IoT is immensely exciting, as it can enhance automation, efficiency, security, and enables personalized experiences by understanding user preferences. So what exactly do we mean when we say integrating AI with IoT devices? Though IoT has seen remarkable success, it's only now tapping into its full potential. While connecting devices has yielded gains, harnessing the overwhelming amounts of diverse data they generate has been the primary challenge. Integrating AI and IoT involves imbuing these connected devices with artificial intelligence functionalities to level up their utility and their performance. This integration enables IoT appliances to become smarter, more autonomous, more adept, and able to interpret and respond to the vast amount of data they generate. At its core, AI empowers IoT devices to go beyond simple data collection and communicate, beyond simple data collection and communication. By leveraging algorithmic processing, devices will be able to analyze the data they collect in real time, extract meaningful insights, and take intelligent actions based on those insights, all without requiring constant intervention. Overall, integrating AI with IoT devices empowers them to become intelligent, adaptive, and responsive. For example, in an industrial setting, integrating AI and IoT sensors can revolutionize predictive maintenance. Instead of simply collecting data on equipment performance, AI-enabled sensors can analyze that data and detect patterns that indicate inefficiencies or even impending failure. This proactive approach allows organizations to address maintenance issues before they escalate, minimizing downtime and maximizing efficiency. Now that we've discussed a bit about the fundamentals of how IoT and AI meet, let's explore how the integration of artificial intelligence enhances the management of IoT devices. The key benefits of integrating AI and IoT is predictive maintenance, as I just mentioned. Traditional maintenance approaches rely on scheduled inspections or reactive repairs after equipment failure. However, with AI, we can move towards a proactive maintenance model. In addition to predictive maintenance, AI-driven analytics play a crucial role in optimizing the performance of IoT devices and systems. AI algorithms can process the vast amounts of data collected by IoT devices, uncovering hidden insights and patterns that human operators may overlook. This enables us to make data-driven decisions and fine-tune operations for maximum efficiency. Another critical aspect where AI excels in IoT management is reducing downtime. Traditional approaches to troubleshooting and maintenance often involve manual intervention and reactive responses to issues as they arise. However, AI empowers us to shift towards a more proactive and predictive approach. By continuously monitoring the performance of IoT devices and systems, AI algorithms can detect anomalies, identify potential failures, and even prescribe solutions autonomously. This proactive management minimizes unplanned downtime, improves reliability, and enhances overall operational efficiency. So I'm going to move on to some real-world use cases, but at that aim, we have seen some of these strategies well implemented by some of our customers using dataServe. Quickly, for context, dataServe, as you can see there, is a no-code virtual agent and automation engine. What does that mean? Well, traditionally, one of the major challenges for organizations is managing numerous data streams to their connected systems, devices, teams, and ensuring that data is both used appropriately and that processes are efficient. dataServe coming in with the world with dataServe, however, is a platform that sits in between the organization and its data sources, such as IoT assets and devices, IT service management portals, generative AI services. It then provides a single space within which to manage and report on data, as well as communicate with relevant stakeholders and manage the works that need to be done. We're going to take a look at two of our customers, although their names and details have been replaced. Our first story is going to look at James. James is the facilities manager for a serviced office provider. James is managing 55 sites across the UK, which means thousands of connected devices, such as alarms, temperature and humidity sensors, motion detectors. On top of that, James is managing a facilities team of 25 people handling thousands of works tickets per year. After that, we will check in with Lucy. Lucy, who is the IT manager for a global law firm. Part of her role involves supporting 2 data centers and 40 server rooms, comprising of hundreds of individual servers and, of course, IoT devices, such as immersive cooling technology, including pump speed and coolant temperature monitors, flood detection systems, and door alarms. She also manages 20 IT support staff across first and second line, handling thousands of incidents, service, and change requests a year. So bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to exit the PowerPoint and move into the system for now, starting with James. And here what you'll see is the main page that James sees, and everything that he'll really be doing from this platform is here on this page. Quick overview shows you that it's all organized into different sections for him. This is all fully customizable. As we take a bit of a deeper look, we see here the service overview, looking at the office health of all the offices that he's managing. Clicking here, we can see that the Glasgow office seems to have something that's gone awry. If we click in, we can see that the lift is currently out of order and the engineers are on site and they're currently working on it. Good to know. Oh, it looks like there's something going on in Coventry, which is another big issue. That's an outage. The air conditioning units in the office rooms seem to be out. They seem to be on the case, but good to have oversight of that. I can subscribe to, no longer subscribe, excuse me. I can subscribe to notifications here, which mean that any updates to that will come through and I will be updated and kept abreast of any changes that might be happening. Coming down a little bit further, very importantly, we have the IoT real-time reporting, where James is able to get real-time data from various different IoT devices and systems. Here we have the alarm system in London, which is not triggered. Good. That means the alarm's not going off. And similarly, it's not armed because it's the day. Motion detector in London makes sense that that's detecting motion as it's the middle of the day and people are working, but just some more general information for James to keep an eye on as well, like the ambient temperature in the meeting room, as that might fluctuate. And coming down, we also have the works management area, forgot the word, where James is able to see just a snapshot of how many works are assigned to which customer, able to see in the calendar which works are scheduled and coming up. And then a little bit low, he's able to see all of the open tickets that his team are currently working on. Then if we come up to the search bar here, we type morning update. This will launch our virtual agent, which is connected to generative AI. This gives us a update as we've requested, the 2 priority 1 issues, but we've already seen those in the London HQ and the Coventry office. There's another one here. I've also noticed that the behavior of the air conditioner in meeting room A is within the range of problem model broken thermostat. Should I create a ticket to perform preventative maintenance? Well, yes, that sounds great. This is a great example of our combination of AI and real-time IoT data. It's measured against a model and it's let me know that it's noticed a pattern of behavior that we might have missed otherwise. And so by doing that, we're getting ahead of the issue and issuing preventative maintenance. Now, I'm going to jump out of James's system and into Lucy's. Again, you can see it's the same platform, but all the branding is customizable. Similarly, the layout of the homepage is completely different and customized to Lucy to give her information that she wants to see. Coming back to the top, we've got the service health again, the cards prioritized, and looks like a big problem here that the flood sensor in server room 2 is gone. There's a flood detected. That's something to be concerned about. So if we then come down, we can see, yes, the flood sensor is also reporting here that it's detected. That the door is unlocked is probably a good sign, though. It means that they're probably on site working on it. If I go down to the work management setting, yeah, look, I can see that the server room is being worked on here. The ticket's already opened. I don't need to check on that. But if I did want to, again, just you can see some of the work management that's more interesting to Lucy as an IT manager, as well as some of the IoT real-time information that she's getting: fan speed, pump speed, coolant temperature. But if we then come back up to our virtual agent, type IT issues, we should see our virtual agent pop up again, tell us what's going on. Yep, right, so we know that there's a flood in server room 2 and Tom is on the case. That's good to know. And I've also noticed that the temperature of server room 2 is outside the optimal range model server room temperature. Shall I decrease the air conditioning target temperature to 20 Celsius? Well, that makes sense because we know that the door's open. We know that there's flooding going on. There's something going on in that room, but it's important that we keep that room cool. So in this case, I'm going to say yes. This is not advice for how to manage servers. That's not my expertise. I apologize, but I presume that this is the right thing to do. But stepping out, we can now see that we're taking those steps to minimize that downtime. The AI has our back and is covering the things that we might not have our eyes on as we're panicking over water on all over the floor of the server room. So coming out of that, I'm going to go back into the PowerPoint, excuse me. And what we've just seen there is some of the use cases that some of our customers are currently using, and a bit of a demonstration that they're both making use of AI to help with predictive maintenance, analytics, and reducing downtime as the primary gains, but there's certainly more that can be made out of it. So just moving forwards, I just wanted to finish off with some best practices for IoT management, look a bit at strategies and some of the challenges that come up. Implementing a centralized management platform is key. This allows you to monitor and control all IoT devices from a single interface, making configuration, updates, and troubleshooting much more efficient. You want to maintain an up-to-date inventory of all IoT devices, including their location, configuration, and firmware versions. This helps in tracking assets, identifying vulnerabilities, planning maintenance schedules effectively. Enable remote monitoring and diagnostic capabilities. This allows you to identify issues proactively and to troubleshoot problems without physical intervention, minimizing downtime again and reducing operational costs. Implement a lifecycle management strategy to ensure that IoT devices are regularly updated with the latest firmware and security patches. This helps in addressing vulnerabilities. Finally, develop robust data management practices to securely collect, store, and analyze data generated by IoT devices. This one's huge because it helps us to leverage analytics to derive actionable insights and optimize performance, driving informed decision-making. Some of the big challenges: time for scalability. From the outset, by designing flexible architectures and adopting standard-based protocols, will ensure that your IoT infrastructure can accommodate future growth without compromising performance. Ensure that IoT devices adhere to interoperability standards. You want to allow seamless communication and integration with other systems and devices. Finally, implement robust security measures to protect IoT devices and data from cyber threats. This includes device authentication, encryption of data, regular security audits, and intrusion and detection systems. Let's just finally discuss some of the insights implementing robust IoT management strategies. Conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify potential vulnerabilities and threats associated with IoT deployments. Develop mitigation strategies from this, including network segmentation and access control policies. It's important to stay abreast of industry regulations and compliance requirements related to IoT deployments. Ensure that your IoT management strategies align with these. Now, a big one is collaboration with device manufacturers, service providers, cybersecurity experts. These are the best ways to leverage their expertise and resources implementing robust management strategies. Consider partnerships with managed services or IoT platform vendors to streamline your management processes, as it were. And finally, and honestly most importantly, IoT management is an ongoing process. It requires continuous improvement and adaptation to evolving threats and technology trends. As we've seen, IoT has been around since the 80s, but it's only now that it's going through a huge evolution with the introduction of AI. Stay vigilant, monitor industry developments, and be prepared to adjust management strategies accordingly to ensure long-term success. Finally, just some of the takeaways from today's talk. What we've seen is that AI and IoT as a partnership is long overdue, and what they offer is really a lot more to come and something to be excited about. We saw some demonstrations of the current implementations of AI and IoT management hubs, as well as a quick look at some of the best practices and strategies. Thank you very much. That takes us on to questions. I think that was a bit quicker than I expected. Apologies for that.
Thank
but
you.
I'm going to hand over to Steve.
Great, thanks, Alex, very much. And again, very interesting and absolutely going with the direction of travel. And my takeaways, likewise, from these webinars are also quite insightful, certainly from my point of view. And this is the way to go, particularly where you've got remote sites or dark sites. You don't necessarily have engineers or field engineers immediately to hand. Can use the technology in certain circumstances to look at preventive and reactive maintenance and actually execute those changes, as we saw, for example, changing the temperature for air conditioning in the server room. So it's going to become increasingly important. And with COVID lockdowns and people not necessarily attending offices in quite the way that they used to, it now becomes a lot more costly for having people who do visit sites if they're not already there. So all these factors make for a very good return on investment. Also recognizing that volumes, of course, the more devices, the more systems that somebody has to manage and look after, you do now need this technology, particularly AI, to assist with this. And I think we've all seen in organizations where they have these very, very large video walls or wall boards for all these systems operating, and they're all sort of point solutions, all coming in through a separate screen. And that's all very well and good, but when it comes to things like crossover and dependencies, that becomes a little bit more of a problem. So, of course, having this IoT technology AI hub to do all that analysis, as well as allowing the human being, the agent, to actually analyze that as well for decision making, of course, is absolutely the way to go. And we've had some very, very interesting use cases, a couple of which Alex highlighted. They're based on real life situations, real life incidents, in fact, that we put there. We just obviously have changed the details, the names of those particular places and people. So all very good. We have had a number of questions, so I'm just going to run through those. So the first one, I think, Alex, you probably pass this one to you. We've actually had several, and people came in pretty soon with this one. Is how do you go about getting a demo or a trial for dataServe? How do you go about doing that?
Oh, yeah, well, absolutely. The best way is really just to contact us. We're always happy to help. I've got our details, I think, on the next page. Similarly, you can find the details on the website and write into us from there. But either way, we will endeavour to get back to you as quickly as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's answered. Had three of those come through, so that was quite an early one. Um, this is quite an interesting one, and this is perhaps less directly about IoT, but more about AI. Somebody's written who's been watching the news talking about how this generative AI tools, I think it's Google's, that have had this sort of meltdown and going through reporting different and weird stuff. The question is, can you give an idea of how dataServe, for example, is using generative AI, or how an organization should think about using that in any security implications that you have for those?
Yeah, certainly. It's a difficult one to answer. As I said, the AI really is the frontier at the moment. It's at the forefront. And so with that, there's going to be a level of um, lack of knowledge, ignorance with what's to come, and with that inevitably comes risk. And so it's important to keep abreast of those developments that are happening. Currently, dataServe is hooked into both OpenAI and Azure's OpenAI offering, and so that at least offers a level of security around your data and your data access and how it interacts with those generative AI solutions. But more broadly, yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. It is a new technology, and it's interesting to see how these big organizations that have really taken AI as the next venture, how they respond to these challenges that are coming up and ensure that they have customer confidence in using those platforms. But we here are always on that and making sure that we are adhering to the best sort of protocols when it comes to generative AI and the developments that are coming out.
And I know exactly the articles that we've seen about those, and you're quite right. It is all about making sure that you use it in a completely practical and safe way. I think some of those meltdowns that we did see were more about organizations or people who were simply going out externally and asking it to trawl the internet for information,
Mm,
consolidate it, and then report back on it. And obviously, what dataServe is using Gen AI is more about sort of internally looking at data and using that to assess and logic and summarize and bring back the information that is required to the person who's monitoring it, rather than just simply sort of throwing it out onto the internet. So I'm guessing that's a far more safe and more controlled way of doing things. Thank you for that. I've got a question here, which just looking at, it's possibly more for me to answer.
mm.
So the question is the process that they're in. Sorry, the questioner is asking about the building or process of building an investment case for this sort of thing. Um, what sort of return on investment metrics could an organisation get by doing this? And that's probably one for me, really.
Yeah, I think so.
They are quite profound in terms of what those benefits are in all sorts of ways, as you can imagine, in terms of productivity for people, in terms of costs for field engineers, in terms of sort of having one solution, bringing them all together, rather than necessarily having different monitoring solutions. So there's quite a profound improvement. Rough estimates, were you to take this all together into a single index, as it were, we generally can prove the improvements are something in the order of about 85%. Now, of course, that does depend on different organizations, scope, what the requirements are going to be, so on and so forth. But you can actually get some quite profound and material improvements in terms of everything you do, from, as I say, productivity to unit costs, as well as other good things that get taken into account when building a business case. So there's lots of major improvements, and again, for those who are interested, we have two things. You can come to us and we can help you with a guide to what to do that. There's actually also a return on investment tool on our website, the dataserve website, which will allow you again to put some numbers in, some parameters in around what your particular needs are, and generate what sort of expected return on investment you could expect. And these are very, very good evidential cases, therefore, based on your own data, to take to the decision maker to prove this is actually a good thing to do. We have another question has just come in. And again, that's possibly for me. The traditional issue: how do you get agreement from all the stakeholders that this is the way to go? And you know, it's absolutely right. We know that facilities management, IT, um, and some of the business functions are not always the best at actually coming together and deciding on a joint strategy. And therefore, it's a simple case, like really with any decision making, is to go to the team or the individual or the committee that sort of has control over all those various disciplines, and make a strong business case based on evidence. So that's either having gone through and sort of built the business case like I suggested, an investment case with information that you have, and being very conservative with a small c around what your outputs would be, what your benefits would be. You can also come to us, as I said, have a demonstration. And again, if you've got information around your particular needs, anonymized, of course, but if you can bring that information, of course, our guys can set up and effectively create almost like a mini solution for you, and you can therefore again generate some sort of benefits out of that. So there are lots of ways of actually doing that, but generally for people, they want to see better productivity, they want to see lower costs, they want to be able to drive out more for less, or more for the same. And this is really where a solution in this IoT hub domain actually really does come into its own, based on the benefits. But again, you have to look at all the various components that will make up what makes for a strong investment case. What's really going to tick all the boxes for the senior team, for those people who are actually going to be taking the decision. We have another question, I think, for you, Alex. Can you very, very briefly? I think you've possibly covered a little bit of this really as you've actually gone
Mm.
through, and probably it's going to be for those to see the presentation afterwards. But what sort of steps would you normally follow when creating an IoT hub? And as I say, you're probably going to go over a little bit about what you've already said.
Yeah, so I covered a little bit about it, and it definitely depends on your circumstances. If you're setting up an IoT hub for your home with a few devices, it's going to be a lot simpler process than either James or Lucy's scenarios, with lots of different users and lots of different devices. But broadly, I think the strategy remains the same. You want to define your objectives, and from there, that should help you choose the appropriate platform. You want to select the devices that you are planning to encompass in this hub, and from there, once you've identified the devices that are going to be all managed by this central hub, establish that connectivity, where required and where necessary, implement security. You want to decide how you're going to manage the data that you're going to get back, what the IoT can take care of, and what models that you might want to build out to enhance your predictive maintenance, enhance your proactive problem management, and finally is integrate in your existing systems. So whether that's your IT service management systems, your works management systems, do thorough testing, of course, and then from there is deploy and monitor the progress. And I think the last thing to say there, as I sort of said at the end, is so much of setting up an IoT hub, especially in the current climate of tech evolving. It's coming at such a fast pace. We're seeing generative AI take leaps and bounds in its capabilities. Coming back to it is continuous improvement. Always been ready to fix forwards. It's more important to get it there, up and running, and have a good idea of what you're hoping to achieve with this hub, and then be prepared to regularly review how it's performing and see where you can squeeze out extra efficiencies and productivity.
Yeah, good advice. Thank you for that. Final call for any other questions that anybody has, who's on this particular webinar at the moment. But I've got one more at the moment. Again, Alex, I think as you are heavily involved in the solutionizing, the deployment. The
Mhm.
question is, in your experience, what's the average time to set up an IoT hub of the type you've actually described? And I guess that will depend hugely on scope. But what are your thoughts on that? What's your normal rough order of magnitude?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Back to scope at the beginning of the last answer. If you're setting up one at home, depending on whether you go with, no, I'm not going to. I'm not going to badmouth any of the main platforms, but no. In terms of talking about most systems, we would expect to see most operations up and running within a couple of months. Obviously, it depends, and as I said, continuous improvement is always going to mean that it's an evolving thing, and that there's always more productivity to be gained and more work to be done on it. But yeah, 6 weeks to a couple of months is what we'd expect for the initial setup from beginning to up and running, as it were, to that monitor stage.
Okay, and of course, as you say, you can phase that, can't you? You can
Yep,
introduce one of your
absolutely.
maybe your high impact, high business impact areas. That could be IT or facilities, or it could be certain sites, and then you can roll out as that's proven itself. Treat it as a pilot or a phase one, and then you can roll out to wider scope, more
Yeah,
sites,
I think that's
such
really
that.
key because I think it can be quite intimidating to think, okay, how like, you know, you could have 40,000 devices and thinking, how am I going to get all of these under one hub in one
Yeah,
go?
no, absolutely.
Incredibly intimidating, but that's not necessary. Once you can start with one small
Sure,
segment and build out
sure.
from there. So,
Okay, great. Okay, I think that's all the questions we've got. So thank you again for those submitting your questions. If you do have any more questions, please feel free just to send them through, or you've got our contact details on the screen in front of you. Obviously, please feel free to email us. Tell us what your thoughts are, of course, and if you do have any questions, we do our very best to answer them. But just want to say, therefore, thank you to you for attending the session. Thank you very much, Alex, for running through what the latest position is and what our approach is to using technology and artificial intelligence in the Internet of Things and how that's likely to evolve. And as you quite rightly say, that's only going to be growing in the coming years. I have absolutely no doubt about that. So again, thank you for people who attend. And just to remind you again that the session will be notified to you once it's available for downloading to see if you want to see it again, or if you haven't seen it on this occasion, or you want one of your colleagues to see it, then of course they can see it afterwards. And as I said, if you've got any feedback or thoughts or ideas you want to share with us, we're always delighted to hear from you. So, unless there's anything final from anybody else, again, I'd just like to wish you the very best for the rest of the day. Looks like we've given you 10 minutes back, which I think we all have many, many meetings and webinars and sessions we attend. So, I'm sure you can make good use of those extra 10 minutes. And wish you well. Thank you again. And do look out for other AIM webinars. They're always topical, contemporary, and very interesting. So please feel free to tune in, and hopefully we'll see you on a webinar not too long into the future. Thank you again. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning.